Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VC TV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and today we're going to be speaking about what's happening in early stage and seed investments. We've watched a number of investment rounds happen over the last few weeks, and more importantly, here in 2021, we may have seen some of the most venture capital being deployed in many different industries than we have before. But what does that mean? And what does that mean for you as founders or even you as investors looking to deploy or to start building in the space? What do you need to know? But also, where is the capital going? Well, what does early stage venture mean here in 2021 that it hasn't yet before, as we're seeing rounds close or raise higher than expected? We're seeing valuations push up, but also lower at the same time. A lot of things happening throughout the venture and seed investment space, and I'm joined by some outstanding co-hosts and friends of VC TV to share just what they're seeing and to talk a little bit about what's all going on to prep you on both sides of the table. Again, entrepreneurs or investors alike. And with that, a big thank you to the Token team, to Maria and Hasmik for making today's episode possible. Let's go ahead and introduce each of our outstanding co-hosts and friends of VC TV. Mark, MME, kick us off.
Absolutely, glad to be back, Kyle, and so many nice and familiar faces. Mark Müller-Eberstein. I'm based in the Seattle area. I'm a member of the Alliance of Angels. That's, I think, the oldest angel organization here in the United States. Bill Gates' father founded this to help companies north of California. I'm a member of the Swan Fund, of the Angel Capital Association. Active angel for about a decade now. I'm on the board of a bunch of different companies and funds and advisory positions as well, working with accelerators and friendly funds to optimize deal flow. And I think that's one of the key things, is really figuring out there's so much happening, and it's really hard to stay on top of it. So making sure you're having a network of trusted people that help you to figure out what's all going on and where the opportunities are.
Absolutely wonderful. And a lot of what you do, Mark, as you just mentioned in your introduction, plays right perfectly with early stage and seed investing, right? You talked about angel investing, angel groups, along with accelerator and incubator programs and that network effect as well. So we're going to come back to that in just a moment. Next up, Vandana, welcome to the show. A little intro, a little background for everybody, please.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle, for having me here. And really nice to see all my panelist friends here. I first of all want to thank the Token TV for creating this show, especially Hasmik, Maria, Kyle, all the people behind the scenes. It takes a lot of efforts to create this show. So I am Vandana Tolani. I was in Singapore and Jakarta for 15 years in investment banking. I had my own family office fund there. And this is my, 7th year back in India. I did some investments, then I went back to advisory. So, currently I'm connected with 300 investors globally. We pick up global deals. While I was in Jakarta and Singapore, I worked as an investment banker and advisor to family offices and angel investors in Jakarta, Indonesia, helping startups from a diverse background, from Fin-Tech and B2B Tech all the way to consumer startups. I was raising funds for them and providing them with a range of services, just as Convanto does today. And after 15 years of staying in Singapore and Jakarta, I came back to India. I did investments for a bit, then returned to advisory. That is when Convanto was founded. Today, Convanto is one of the most well-known boutique investment banks in India, and it is led by a female founder. I'm also a venture advisor with Loyal VC, the INSEAD-led Canadian VC Fund, having a core portfolio of over 160 investments in more than 35 countries. I'm also a partner with GST Venture Studios, a Silicon Valley-based venture builder. Over the years, I've arranged funding for startups and growth stage companies in diverse sectors like edutech, fintech, consumer, B2C, and B2B, agri-tech, health tech, food tech, disruptive and deep tech, as well as non-tech sectors. please do have a look at my wonderful testimonials written by my clients on my website. This month, I've been nominated as one of the top 10 women leaders in Wealth Management 2021. And my expert opinion is often sought by leading business news channels and publications like VCTV and Business World. I've participated in 155 plus talks all over the world. You can easily see them on YouTube or VCTV streaming sites. And happy to be here. We are sector agnostic. We do $1 million to $25 million. And once again, thank you for having me here.
Thank you very much, Vandana. And again, congratulations on that award. Wendy Diamond, welcome back as well. A little intro, a little background for everybody.
Thank you again for having me. I'm Wendy Diamond. I'm a limited partner in 4 funds, 3 of which are in the disruptive technology space, including blockchain, Bitcoin, etc. And then another one in cell agriculture and plant-based and anything that, is vegan, because I'm a vegetarian my whole entire life. I'm also the founder of Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization. We're in 144 countries to empower women in business to alleviate poverty. So we're coming from a ground-up approach. So we're supporting and love to support women founders and, of course, minorities, especially because with this pandemic, they've been the most been affected the most during this time. And then I'm also a seed investor in about 20 different companies, and a lot of them are focused on supporting women, but also supporting minorities as well, and people with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Lastly, Fabio, a little intro, a little background for everybody.
Yes, I'm an economist by training. I have a PhD from the University of Chicago. I started my career at the International Monetary Fund. Then I moved to the European Central Bank for the launch of the euro. And once that project was accomplished, I moved to the private sector to work in London for the research department of Goldman Sachs. With the oil boom, I moved to the Arabian Peninsula to work for sovereign institutions, first in Qatar, then in Dubai, and lastly in Oman as Chief Strategy Officer of the Oman Investment Fund and Chief Economist for 8 years. Now I'm a partner in Golden Eagle, which is a boutique investment bank operating with headquarters in New York. And we assist companies, including startup and early ventures, to raise capital, sometimes through private investors, sometimes through a listing on the over-the-counter market in New York.
Wonderful. Well, everybody, welcome to today's topic. Again, we're going to be talking a lot about early stage venture and seed investments, and really would like to get each of your opinion on what has changed here in early stage venture capital looking at 2021. I mean, 2020 brought us a lot, as we've talked about a number of times here on VCTV. And when we look at the early stage venture ecosystem over the last 20 years, we've seen a number of changes. Some come in cycles, others have been pretty consistent. But right now, things seem to be all over the place. We've got fundraising, more opportunities to fundraise from, as Mark was teeing us off with many areas that he focuses on. There's many more as well that you can raise from as an entrepreneur, but even as an investor, there's more opportunities to get involved into the space. We also didn't touch yet on DAOs and decentralized autonomous organizations, where we're starting to see more investors come together to anonymously invest into companies together or collectively. So what has changed? What's new? What are entrepreneurs and founders looking at? What do they need to be aware of as we look at the second half of 2021? Mark, kick us off.
Gladly. So what a year it has been, for sure. Remember us being on a call about a year ago, and nobody was knowing if funding is going to still be around. People were starting to get really careful. Nobody knew what the economy is going to do. And now 12 months later, said, yeah, that's all gone. I think we have so much deal flow in a variety of areas. And I think, as you mentioned, it was really the new businesses that were born out of nothing coming up and providing opportunities for new employees, entrepreneurs, of course, and us investors to help accelerate the growth and the opportunities that were possible. I think we're getting now to a more stable space again. I think it feels a little bit more like 2 years ago. We're seeing a lot of good companies coming through our funnel. And it's interesting, though, what's slightly, I think, has always been the competition between investors of trying to get into the best deals. Those that are really, really hot, they raise and fund and close very quickly. So it's really, as I said earlier, the importance of the network, of making sure getting early access to these top entrepreneurs with their great ideas, and especially the great teams that are going to change the world in their defined areas, being able to add value, not only monetary, but with helping the entrepreneurs and the other investors in the ecosystem.
And Mark, I want to come to you real quick. You mentioned the word access a few different times, and also with the network effect as well. So as an investor, what can be done to gain access, looking at some of these great opportunities and great businesses that are being founded by entrepreneurs everywhere? Because that is also changed now that we get to do this type of interaction much more on a daily basis. And then I'm going to come around to everybody. But Mark, kick us off on that if you could.
Well, I think as more you give, as more you get. So we do a lot of outreach and volunteering in the entrepreneur community. We provide free access to resources, guidance, office hours. Just being there and helping entrepreneurs on their journey. They might not be ready to raise money today, but when they need it, they will come back to us and have those conversations. I think it is really building communities. Same with other angel groups, other fund managers. You're staying in an ongoing dialogue where you help each other. So when those opportunities are coming up, we are the people that already have those contacts, and then we can open doors for entrepreneurs. It's not only the money. It's the, wow, this is exciting. I believe into you and your team. And I introduce you to the people that I think could be helpful with you with capital, but also on your journey going forward.
That's a very good point. Wendy, I know you do a number of different things in this area as well when talking about access and building that network. Share a little bit, if you could, with us on what investors can do to start working in building that network effect if they're looking to first enter into a new industry or enter into investing as a whole. And then I have a follow-up for you as well.
Okay. So, I just kind of fell into it, let's say, I got into Bitcoin in like 2016, which just really got me really interested in blockchain. And that was when I started investing a lot in the different companies that were coming out in disrupting spaces. So whether it was like health or, whatever it might be. And then I, really realized, the best access I found is by being an LP in a lot of these different funds, right? These are the people that because I have a day job. I support Women's Entrepreneurship Day all over the world in 144 countries. So I'm really busy with my foundation. So I don't really have the time to really go deep into learning a lot about these companies. So I've just really found the best way to do it is to become a limited partner in funds that are the funds that you're most interested in. And that's how, I got into Coin Fund, Block Tower. That's how, I wanted a little exposure in Asia. So I got into OP Crypto, that's founded by a lot of the people with Hobby. So I'm so I'm kind of looking at like, okay, how do I diversify? So I have access. And then also, with EFF Ventures in Focus, because one of my things is, I love, the plant-based cell agriculture world, right? And I want to help the oceans. I want to help the agriculture. I want to help farmers. So I think by having, access now as part of these funds, I do have calls with them, every 2 weeks, sometimes once a month, to understand what they're investing in. So I'm not an expert in DeFi. I'm not an expert in NFTs. But, my funds are really invested in these spaces. So it's up to me then to, kind of look at what are they investing in and also share deal flow with them. So that's kind of a lot of the ways that I've been seeing a lot of, deals and also, my network, everyone kind of in my network knows, if there's something in impact, if there's something in pet, they know blockchain, they know, hey, Wendy, could you, and so I think that, is the way to create your little ecosystem. right?
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm very careful and I don't do too much. And I kind of go into, a less, for me, quality versus quantity, because I feel like, you only have so much time. So, I'm probably going into about maybe 3 or 4 seed deals a year, and maybe, and keeping with my funds as well.
And it's an interesting part, I think, from hearing from other investors as well, and just again conversations we've had here on VCTV, is how some things have changed for the early stage venture community. So, doing a few less deals or a few more deals, investing in funds, but more importantly, the industries. You brought up a number of industries we've spoken about together, but also that I would say are becoming bigger trends looking ahead to this year and forward. Impact, climate, agriculture, pets, a multi-billion-dollar market that continually gets forgotten about and shouldn't be. Blockchain, you brought up DeFi, NFTs. What else are you seeing, or maybe if you want to share a little bit more of how these are starting to evolve as industries from an early stage perspective, and what's getting you excited about them?
Well, I think, also just in what's happened in the last year, right? There's so much opportunity right now. And, kind of going back into, my foundation, women and minorities. There are so many startups right now focused on that space, right? And I find like, just the ecosystem of, bringing in the impact aspect of it. Everything I've seen, honestly, everybody has brought in, like, how is this going to help the world, right? And how is it going to make a positive imprint? So, looking at, a couple of the companies that I'm coming in the next, probably close in the next month. One is called Bidversity, which is disrupting the $1 trillion of our U.S. government, has for procurement, right? And there's like 41%, I think, is dedicated to women and minorities. And that there's no, sometimes they can't even fulfill these because they don't have the women and minorities. So looking at bringing in AI and all these patented technologies to enable this company to match existing corporations with these small business owners, to enable them also to benefit from these programs that our government has. And I think, like that company and a lot of these other companies that I'm looking at are kind of like the same thing. Like at Stanford, they had I'm connected a lot with a lot of Stanford professors who connected me with another company that is, using microbiome to create dog treats, so to keep their mouths healthy, which is like one of the biggest problems with dogs, and how they're, getting disease. And so, just like looking at like all the ecosystems that I care about, I think, and just being able to be, introduced to the really impressive entrepreneurs, like the smartest people in the world. I love to learn from them. And so I think it's a very exciting time for people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think we would all agree. Furthermore, and Vandana, I want to come to you. I mean, you've done 160 investments in 35 plus different countries around the world. Things have had to change since you started making those investments. So, how are you seeing, early stage and seed evolve? Because you do have a very global perspective as well, right? We've talked about where you've made investments, where you're based, but then you do so many investments in so many countries. How are you seeing this early stage venture capital markets really start to evolve for both founders and investors?
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, last year when the pandemic hit us, we were still doing a lot of investments, sitting at one chair from our homes over Zoom and, over these platforms, StreamYard, Meet, Microsoft Teams. This year also, when the pandemic hit us, it was just a 2 months gap. We had slowed down, but investments were continuing happening. In fact, early stage investments are happening more than big companies or Series A, Series B, C, D investments. And I see a lot many happening in the fintech, agri-tech space, in the edutech space, in the food tech, health tech space. And the things that have evolved is that we are connecting on global platforms like these. We don't have to run around for meetings. We can just sit at home and have 10, 20 meetings at one go, and close things virtually on a platform. So I think everybody is realizing the value to go digital. Not only that, investments are happening all throughout globally, whether it's USA, UK, India, Singapore. I get deals from all parts of the world. So I think it's a very good space now at this stage, because in fact investors are looking to invest in early stage and seed companies, any disruptive models, especially AI, robotics, IoT, deep tech, anything that is solving a larger problem for the society as well. Impact investments are happening. So capital is there, investments are happening. We just have to reach out to the right kind of investors.
You're absolutely right. And Fabio, I want to come to you next on that. I mean, you've played all sides of this table, whether it's a founding, it's angel to PE, private equity to venture, and then even high net worth on a global scale. How have you started to see early stage venture not only change, but also start to move maybe into that later stage area as well?
We need to distinguish, because there are very pronounced differences in different markets. For example, the US are the place, have a financial market that is much more inclined to invest in risky ventures. Therefore, you have all sorts of institutions, all sorts of people. In other words, there is an ecosystem that is quite effective in channeling funds to early stage ventures, startups, and in general, risky investments. The situation is completely different in Europe. For example, people don't perceive often this difference. And in Europe, we are still in the early stage of the venture capital, or setting up a venture capital ecosystem, with a few exceptions. The UK is more advanced. Continental Europe is definitely lagging behind, and the Mediterranean countries effectively have very little to offer. So in Europe, there is a very harsh competition among new projects for the few funds that are available. And even among startups, those that are more successful tend to be in areas which are not extremely innovative. For example, artificial intelligence has some appeals. Cybersecurity certainly is hot. But if you, for example, move to areas like space economy or quantum computing, very little is being done currently. So it's much, much more difficult for European companies or for emerging market companies to find an investor or find the angel willing to finance the innovative project. And that's why we are building a bridge with Golden Eagle between the European market for startups and the American market for capital. Because these markets, surprisingly because one is induced to think that the financial markets are completely integrated. But this is not the case for venture capital finance, which remains very much segregated along national lines. And it's very difficult that, say, a Portuguese company gets investors from Germany. It's also very rare that a European company finds investors in the US, even in the UK, a continental European company. So to summarize my point, there is a lot of work to be done to integrate the financial markets and match good ideas with good money. That's what we are. We are quite keen to achieve.
Yeah, and I want to use a word that you brought up as our closing thought today, our closing question: bridge, right? Bridging those gaps, and I think that's something very important because we have entrepreneurs that are getting into this space for the first time, and also investors who may be getting into early stage as well. But also, we want to, and Vandana and I and a few others had a good conversation last week about diversification and diversifying, and how we can add diversity, into the venture capital worlds as well. So what are those bridges that need to be put in place to really help create the bridges between entrepreneurs, investors, and just creating this bigger opportunity for diversity throughout the entire venture ecosystem as well? And Wendy has also done a number of initiatives around this as well. But Wendy, I'm going to leave you for last. You're going to close this out. So Mark, kicking you off, what are those bridges? What are those pieces we need to put in place to make this ecosystem that we're all a part of even better than it is today? And where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation for next time?
Yeah, sure. No, so I think it's a really, really good question. As I said earlier, deal flow is key, and a deal flow can come from any corner. So being open to thinking outside of your traditional box, it's really, really important to find those really good opportunities as an investor. So how do we bridge? Well, I think there were a couple of good points earlier. We're investing in funds. We're collaborating with funds for sure. Blockcelerate in the internet, in the crypto space, Longhash and DeFi and Web 3.0, for example. Singapore opens up completely new opportunities for us. I think one of the speakers mentioned it's online. Everything has moved online. Yes, absolutely. And it allows the scale both for the businesses, but also for raising funds and building those kind of relationships. So we've just invested in anything from a chocolate factory here in Seattle, very local, to a funeral company out of Portland in Oregon. So those were two areas there, but also into new materials with Genesis out of California. All of those are very promising technologies, and the teams behind them come often from unexpected places for sure. But it's important to think about scale. Like we see great opportunities, for example, out of Portugal from a business-friendly environment. But the companies themselves need to think about how do they scale beyond their local markets. And that's, again, where international investors, and to be blunt, where US investors have often a big head start to help our entrepreneurs. Where to find me? Find me on Twitter @MarkMEberstein. Best way to stay in touch with me. Follow me. Direct messages are open. Always very interested in hot projects and great teams.
Thank you very much, Mark. Vandana, same to you.
So, primarily one expects to have a strong team of individuals with a large skill set. And at early stage, mostly investors like to invest in the right people over the right product or service. And of course, it's a plus if they already have a product which is doing well in the market, and if they figured out their product market fit, and if they already have a minimum viable product. And, for the best investment in terms of amount and investor relations, founders and entrepreneurs need to research the investor market and find an investor that is active for the sector it works in. And one of the most important parts of impressing the potential investor is the pitch. They need to have a well-researched pitch deck. It should be precise with all necessary data that the investor, would want to know. And the pitch should include all the projected data and justifications for those projections. And I could be reached out on my website, www.convanto.com, or LinkedIn. And once again, thank you for having me here.
Thank you as well. Fabio.
Bridges are not only, how can I say, physical links, but it's also, there is an element of cultural links. For example, often for entrepreneurs, for early stage entrepreneurs, it's extremely difficult to write down a business plan. So they are often very good at developing, new applications, new devices, new business proposals, but they are not able to explain in a coherent fashion what they want to do, what is their marketing strategy, what are the key milestones, what are the risks, where do they see themselves within the sector they operate in. So often the those who launch new initiative focus on the product and don't focus on everything else, which is equally important. And most people think that just by having a great product, a great idea, it will sell by itself. It's not. This is not the case. And marketing, promoting, advertising are key elements of any successful venture or startup. So what I want to stress is the fact that in order to raise funds, you have to be able to undergo a very pervasive due diligence, which is not only focusing on technical aspects, on the technology, if you wish, but also on everything else which constitute the ingredients of a successful company. So often this is quite difficult to grasp for European startuppers, and in America there is a much broader awareness in this area. So the cultural gap needs to be bridged as well. You can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Fabio Scacciavillani, on Twitter under my last name, so @Scacciavillani. I'm also on Facebook and most other social networks.
Thank you very much, Fabio. Wendy, close us out.
Yeah, so I think there's no better time for startups and seed stage investing. I think if anyone right now, there's an incubator out there that you could participate in, whether it's for disabilities, whether it's for women, whether it's for Black founders, whatever it might be, there's opportunity. So to connect with your universities and colleges as well, because they all are starting up all these different incubators, et cetera, at universities. And those networks are the most important thing because they can connect you with alumni that are investors, et cetera. But really, go out there and reach for the people that you admire in your space who can become advisors and create your team that can really help you build these companies. And my name's Wendy Diamond, and you can go to wendydiamond.com and read all about the companies and funds I've invested in, and you can follow me if you want. But thank you so much. Or go to womenseday.org, and you can look at, if you're in a country, you could go and match with one of our ambassadors in those countries who are would welcome you to their network as well, that are supporting women entrepreneurs.
Absolutely love it. Wendy, Fabio, Mark, Vandana, thank you very much for all the thoughts and insights, and also all these great opportunities and key insights, again, that people need to be paying attention to on all sides of the table as well around early stage and seed investment. To your audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, make sure you click like, subscribe, and share today's episode, as well as checking out each and every one of our outstanding co-hosts today on their social media or websites, respectively, as well. Do connect with each of them, including myself. We'd all love to hear from you, what you're building in and what you're working on. So do reach out. Please do add context, where you heard us, where you met us, and what you would like to continue the conversation about as well. Big thank you to the Token team, to Hasmik and Maria, for making today's episode possible. With that, we'll be back here tomorrow with more VC TV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.